allow me to introduce our two lovely speakers connecting directly from London. So Giulia Remontino, which she's a cognitive performance expert and the founder of a company, inGeniusly. And she's also an amazing TEDx speaker and coach. And our lovely Hamid Adigan, which he's a strategic AI consultant and the co-founder of Avian and the co-founder of Black AI Futures. So thank you so much. And the stage is on our lovely speakers.
Good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to be here and looking forward to this session in which we're going to learn so many things. So I'm going to share my slides and we're going to kick it off. So we're going to talk about critical thinking in the age of AI, and Ksenia has started to introduce us, but let me say a little bit more about why we're doing this session and what our background is that will help us with this. Now, Hamid, we could call him the AI strategist because he breathes AI every single day. He works with AI, he creates systems for companies, for people, organizations, teams, in order to really make life easier. Because, I mean, we know that now AI is here to stay, so using it well and effectively can make a huge difference. And that's what he does for organizations. Besides having founded also Black AI Futures, which is this network, international network and community of people and Black-led organizations that has partnerships with Parliament in the UK to really affect policy and how AI is used for good in the world. And so they are advising the AI PPG, which is a group in Parliament that's taking care of this at a cross-party level. And so he was really the perfect person today to walk us on all the things that are AI related. And then I'll hand it over to you, Hamid.
Thank you, Julia. Hello, everybody. So let me talk a little bit about Julia. Julia is a CEO of Brain Trainer. She is a cognitive performance expert, TEDx speaker, and author of Genius by Choice. She has over 16 years of experience helping all kinds of people, from professionals to business owners, to students, to truly unlock the power of their brain, and in order to understand what could be achieved and get more success, whether that's in their business, their career, and so on. She is also an incredible TEDx coach, and she's coached over 30 plus people and allow them to have their own TEDx talks. People like CEOs, entrepreneurs, professionals, and most importantly, she has trained thousands of people all over the world, from the UK to the USA, Ghana, Nigeria, Spain, Italy, Jordan, Cyprus now. and she's worked with the likes of Goldman Sachs, Bloomberg, and so on. So yes, Julia, the founder of inGeniusly, she is incredible. So yes, that is... Okay, let's talk about the reason that we are here today. The reason we're here today is because there is already a shift happening with regards to AI in the workforce. AI is disrupting the entire world of work, and those who will thrive in this new era are the ones that actually embrace the change and use AI for what it's good at, whilst bringing the human aspect to the equation. So the uniquely human aspects of us, such as our creativity, our vision, our relationships, our interpersonal skills, if we can combine that with the tools that AI provides, then we can truly make ourselves extraordinary.
Yes, and if we look at how we can get the most out of this opportunity, we need to understand a concept that in terms of brain skills will make a big difference. Some of you may be familiar with this kind of representation of the 3 spheres that Stephen Covey introduced a lot of years ago now. And I always look at how this impacts the way we use our brain. What does it mean? There are certain things in our life that are part of our sphere of involvement or concern. What does it mean? It's things that happen, they have an impact on our life, but we don't have any control over. So we can't change them ourselves. Then there are things that influence our life. and that we can influence back. So we do have some power, but we can't fully be responsible for the result because they may also involve other people, other situations that are not fully in our hands. And then we have the sphere of control. And the sphere of control is what is inside our realm, so what we can actually take care of. Now, if we look at this in the context of AI, which is the context we're looking at today, in the sphere of involvement, we can put all those things that are not in our hands. So advancements in AI, or development of new regulations around AI, or the transformation that Hamid was just mentioning in the job market, or the political change, the societal change. So all these things happen and they do affect our own lives, but we don't have a direct control over, unless we are the ones creating those regulations, for example. And that's the sphere of involvement. Then we have the sphere of influence. And the sphere of influence, in this case, we could talk about, for example, our career success, our security in the job that we have, the business that we run, depending on what we do, the impact on the people around us, the immediate network. So these are things in which we can have an impact, we can do something, but they are not fully in our hands because there's also other parts of the equations involved. And then we have the sphere of control. So what is actually in our sphere of control in this age of AI? Well, first and foremost, brain skills. So we can choose to upgrade the way we think. So with my company inGeniusly, what we do is we help people identify what skills lie underneath the results that they want and develop those, because we've been trained in a lot of things in life, technical things, strategy, knowledge, but we haven't really been taught how to use our brain effectively. And that is one of the cardinal building blocks of success. And so that's something that we can do. We can work on our interpersonal skills. So how we interact with the world, how we present ourselves. We can learn more about AI and make sure that we're not left out when things happen, when all those things in the green and yellow spheres happen. We can make sure that we keep up to date. We can make sure that we think in a different way, that we make decisions, that we learn how to use this, and we adapt the way we work based on what the world today requires. So if there's some recommendations that we want to give you before we look into anything else, is make sure that you put in the time now, because AI is fast. We're going to see that. And by putting in the time now, you're going to understand how to not be left behind later. Second thing, allow yourself to take messy actions. What does it mean? This is a whole new world. I see, and Hamid as well, sees a lot of people that are a bit scared of making mistakes, and so they don't even try. But this is the moment to experiment and try and see what works for you, what doesn't, what can be improved. So don't be afraid to do that. And don't be afraid to be a beginner. Everyone is a beginner. Already with what you are going to see today, and in the next few sessions that we're going to run, you're going to be ahead of probably 90% of people in terms of knowledge about AI. And so you are a beginner in general, but we're all beginners in general, because it's a whole world that's new for everyone. So we're still in time to learn about it and not be substituted by it. And keep an open mind, because all of us may have different preconceptions about what can be done, why it may be good, it may not be good. As I said before, Hamid is the founder of Black AI Future, so this ethical part of AI is a very, very important theme for us. And it's something that we are trying to affect in the UK and internationally. But on the other side, AI is here. We need to be open to understanding what's the best way I can use it, rather than should I or should I not? Because right now that's what's happening. That's what around us. So if it's impossible to learn everything about AI, what can we learn? Because AI is evolving constantly. So we will never be able to learn everything about AI. We'll always be a beginner in a way, on some aspects of AI at least. So what can we learn, Hamid?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. So, what can we learn? Well, in this particular session, what we are going to learn will be how to put together the right types of frameworks in order to work effectively with AI, and also develop our cognitive skills so that we can combine the two and use these tools in an efficient way. So firstly, I want to say that we have a framework that we teach on how to use AI effectively, but we're not going to be looking at that in this particular session. That will be in the next session because I heard this was a series, so I hope to see more people there as we continue to progress. What we're going to do in this session is a quick demo to show you, first of all, a demo that utilizes the framework that we're going to see in the next session and show you how the different ways in which you can use AI critically. And then we're going to look at the foundations of critical thinking and how to activate our critical thinking in relation to AI. So let's talk about the demo. The demo is going to center around a concept that I call the AI brain. You can call it the second brain, the AI brain. What is the AI brain and why? Well, first of all, let me tell you why the AI brain is important, because like Julia mentioned, things are always moving fast in this AI space. So if you are trying to just learn tools and get familiar with tools, you're inevitably not going to be able to keep up because things are always changing, and it's not the smartest way to go about it. So it's not about the tools, it's about the systems. It's about the systems that you can apply regardless of whatever AI tool you're using. Now, that includes the thinking systems that Julia ingeniously teaches, but that also includes actual systems that you put in place, like the AI brain. Now, what is the AI brain? It is a structured folder of files on your machine, organized, indexed, and interconnected to ensure that it is providing richer answers, richer context, and it's readable by any AI model. It is the knowledge layer that sits behind every AI conversation that you have. And this is what we teach people how to build on our AI Unlocked course, which of course you can find out more by contacting us. But if I just run through the list on here to just to tell you the advantages of this situation. So imagine on your local machine, you have a structured folder of files. Each of those files has data about your career, your life, things that you want the AI to know. But not only that, each of those files are connected to other files in terms of whenever there is something that is related to another context in to another topic in another area of your life, it's connected in that way. And what we see on the left hand side in the diagram is an example of that brain. So each node is a file, and the connections between the nodes are the connections that the AI has found between the files. So think of this as your own database, almost like a vector database or a cloud documents database. It lives on your machine, so it doesn't have to ever enter the cloud. It's yours. It's platform agnostic, meaning you can use ChatGPT to query this particular context, and then it gives you better, more detailed answers that are tailored to your life and your career specifically and the things that you want to know. So you can, speak through ChatGPT, through Claude, through Gemini, any model that arrives next year, you can speak to it through that. It never forgets, because as you use this thing, and this is another important thing that mentions at the bottom, it gets richer over time. So first of all, it never forgets, because forgetting would mean that it's lost a file. But if you've indexed it properly and you don't delete a file, then it never forgets. It's interconnected, which is better than the way, I don't know if many of you use something like Claude or ChatGPT. They've introduced projects where you can upload files to create a context so that when you get a response back, it is a bit more tailored to you. Those projects are good. They're like a smaller version of this because they're files, but those files aren't interconnected. This brain is linked. It doesn't just store information, it reasons across your entire knowledge base. And importantly, you control it. You decide what goes in, you decide what stays out, how it's structured, and everything like that. And the most helpful part is the fact that it gets richer over time. So the more you use this brain, this AI brain, the more you speak to a model and you're questioning it and you're building things, or you're planning, or you're creating, or you're strategizing, the model that you're using will also be able to update this brain. It will be able to increase it, add more files, and create more connections. It just gets richer and more powerful over time, and it truly becomes like a second brain to you. So in a moment, I will demonstrate this in action with a quick demo. But first, I have a question from the audience, and I want to see if anyone will be willing to act as a volunteer. So, what is that question? The question is, who needs an output that requires design? Who amongst the listeners needs an output that requires something to be designed, whether that's a pitch deck, a landing page, a website, a proposal, something that requires design, because then we can truly show the power of the second brain in action.
And Hamid, am I right in saying that it should be someone that can speak, because we'll need to hear from them, not just in the chat, right?
Yes, most definitely.
In that case, we allow the unmute button. So if someone wants to talk, they can unmute themselves and share.
In the meantime, let me show the second brain, Julia, whilst we wait for someone to say something. Can you guys see my screen? Yes? Okay, so this is the second brain that I have built for myself, and just to show you how this works. Every node in here is a particular document. And the connections between the nodes are what you are seeing being formed right now. So this is the brain loading, more or less. And like I said, it is a structure that lives on your computer, completely document based. And with this particular, so here you can see the big one that's being formed is the one that my AI talks to. The ones over here are different ones that I have created myself for other topics that I don't want the AI to touch. That's another important thing. That's another important aspect about this. You can decide what the AI talks to and what it doesn't talk to. So here is the second brain. This is what it looks like. Do we have a volunteer yet, or we'll Curis?
Just to let you know, all the microphones are enabled, but you still need to unmute yourself. Just click on the mic if you're on mute, if you want to ask, so that you're able to ask the question.
No?
We have a question in writing. So the question is, so whatever we save in AI, we can go back when we personally black out or start having amnesia?
Yes. Yes.
Nice.
This is true. Well, I suppose it could also act like that. I personally would not recommend you put all your personal details when you're creating your second brain. I always say recommend it for career focused and work focused stuff, because having your own data on your own computer is one step towards digital sovereignty, but at the end of the day, you're still using these models that are on cloud to speak to that data. Eventually, we want to get to the point where we have our own local models each on our computers that we can then speak to our own data, and then that's true privacy. But it depends on how much privacy means to you. In the meantime, does Curis want to design something, or
Hi.
should I?
Yes. I don't know if you can hear me. It's Katerina.
Hello, Katharina.
Hi, nice to meet you. And
Nice to
thank
meet
you all
you.
for the meeting. I would like to volunteer for the design.
Okay, cool. Okay, fine. Let's do it. Let's do it. So what I've done here is what you're looking at on my screen is Claude, right? And Claude is connected directly to my second brain. You see this? Amid OS. Amid OS
Yes.
is the name of my second brain. So the framework that we use to think about applying AI and so on is what is going to be used for your design, Katharina. So firstly, let's start. Let's begin. I've designed a skill that's going to ask you a couple of questions, and then based on your answers to those questions, is going to generate a prompt, which we can then put into Claude Design and try to design something. Okay?
So it can be like a logo, for example,
A logo.
or
Yes, it could be a logo. It could be a pitch deck. It could be a landing page, a website, a poster, anything you'd like to design, really.
what for the purpose of it, what is better? I mean, to see as an example, I don't mind.
Um, should we go with a brand guidelines? Let's go with brand guidelines for
Okay,
something that
yeah,
you want to
sure.
do, yeah? Okay. All right, so let's begin. I'm going to press enter, and then it's going to ask some questions, and then I'm just going to let you speak so that you can answer it, okay? So
Yeah.
the first question is, what industry or field are you in?
In the life insurance business.
Live insurance.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Next question. What are you currently working on or trying to make happen?
Inform more people about the importance of having insurance.
Nice. Just going to take this away, inform more people about the importance of having more insurance. And then third question, what visual output would you love to have? Something like a pitch deck, a website, a proposal, or a campaign page?
What is a pitch desk exactly?
It's almost like a brand guideline.
Okay, so we'll go with that, the pitch desk.
Okay. So let's say pitch deck, yeah?
Yeah.
Pitch deck. And who is it going to be for? Is it going to be for you, clients, investors, the general public? What are you thinking?
The general public, ages from 20 to 60.
And the final thing, what's one thing about you or your work that's important to include in this particular deck that we're going to create?
Trust and to have a client relationship, that people are able to trust me, so I'll do the correct analysis for them.
Okay. Anything else?
In general, you mean?
Yeah. Just something, an extra special thing, but we can just go with that if that's what we have. Let's just go with that.
Okay.
So we're gonna do that. So now what it's doing is it's collected those brief information about you, and now is generating based on the information, based on the framework that because in my brain is the same framework that teaches you how to use AI effectively. Now, based on that logic and that framework, is generating an incredibly designed prompt, which we would then copy this, and we would go to Claude Design. So let me share my Claude Design so people can see what I'm doing here. Claude Design. And then in this case, we want a pitch deck, right? So we'd go into a slide deck. Let's call it Curis Demo. And we would create. And then we would paste that same prompt in here. And then it would take time to design that prompt. Now, whilst we design the prompt, let me pass it back to Julia so that she can continue the presentation and keep talking about how exactly we are going to explore the foundations of critical thinking to ensure that when we're using these tools, we use it in the best way possible.
Amazing. Thank you, Hamid and Katerina. I'm very curious to see what comes because
Thank you, me
it
too.
was very impressive. And also, I love the fact that Hamid didn't even have to type, right? So you were just talking and things appeared. That's amazing.
Yes.
Saves time, right?
Yeah, we're using AI for that too. Forgot to mention.
That's nice. So while Claude does its job, what we can do is to look up critical thinking on a more cognitive perspective. So it's always about putting together the right tools and frameworks and our brain effectively. So what we need to understand is that critical thinking in general may be good or bad in our life. Some of you may feel you have amazing critical thinking, others a bit less. And critical thinking in general is our ability to think logically, think objectively, assess the world around us with as much objectivity as possible, so that we don't jump to conclusions or make errors and mistakes that are unnecessary, right? Now, AI makes this much harder than when AI wasn't there. Now, why? Because there are three main factors that affect critical thinking in general, and we're going to see how those apply also when we are using AI even more. So the first one is speed. Now, critical thinking is low or lower when speed is involved. Critical thinking requires us to pause because our brain otherwise will jump to conclusion. And AI, the problem is that instead it reinforces speed, because how does AI work? You saw it even now. No, we put an input, amazing, immediate output, so very fast output. And so at that point, we are led to give an even faster input, and then we'll get a faster output. And so we create this speed loop, I call it, where we are encouraged to go faster. I don't know if you've seen anyone, or maybe you may be the person that when working with AI is like, and then wait for the answer, and then, and we go fast and fast and fast and fast and fast and fast. But that doesn't help our critical thinking. So this is the first thing that we need to realize about AI and critical thinking. The second aspect that affects critical thinking is cognitive skills. So at the basis of critical thinking, there are skills such as focus, attention to detail, the ability to think outside the box, process information, pay attention, and really be immersed in something. Now, AI doesn't help that. There's some studies that have come out recently that have tested people using AI, and they've realized that AI really creates a lot of cognitive overload in people. So what does that mean? That people initially thought that through AI, you would be less overwhelmed because most of the work is done by AI. But truth is that AI takes care of those tasks that are easier. So you are left with more time to focus on all the hard tasks. And so what reality is that you spend your day when you use AI a lot, taking care of tasks that are a bit more fun because they're less admin related, maybe they're more strategic decisions and so on, but that affects your brain a lot. So your brain becomes much more tired if you don't know how to handle it, how to actually use these skills effectively. And the third one is your emotional state. What does it mean? That critical thinking in general goes down when we are tired, stressed, overwhelmed, and in a rush. And truth is that AI encourages all of those, especially overwhelmed and in a rush. Now with this recent studies, also tired because cognitive overload is a thing. But given that we're often overwhelmed, there's a lot of output. When you use AI, you know, like very often the output that you receive is very wordy. There's a lot, and it pulls from a lot of information. This creates a sense of overload, overwhelm. And so at a certain point, instead of activating our thinking, what we do is, you know what? This must be okay. I don't really have the time to check it. I don't know if it's happened to anyone to think something like that. Maybe you caught yourself, maybe you didn't, but it's very normal when there's so much. So all of these go and affect something that is going to be the end of our critical thinking if we don't keep it in check, and that's cognitive biases. Now, cognitive biases are all these unconscious shortcuts. So there are errors in judgment because they distort the perception. What does it mean? That given that there's all this speed and this overload and this tiredness and so on, our brain needs to find some shortcuts and say, I can't process everything well, so I'm going to just jump to conclusions every now and then. And it's based on predictions, based on past experiences, based on speed, based on meaning, depending. There's over 150 biases that we are subjected to. So it's a lot. But the problem is that very often these are unconscious. So some biases are okay, they're called heuristics. So it's a mechanism of our brain just to save energy, So at times, for example, if I have open doors in my life and I know what a doorknob looks like, if I find a new door with a new doorknob, I'm likely to be able to open the door even if it's a new type of doorknob, because my brain pulls from the experience and tries things. So in that sense, these shortcuts help, because otherwise every time I would need to kind of relearn everything from zero. But reality is that very often we do it in contexts that create mistakes and errors. Now, what are we going to see? We're going to see the main biases that affect us when we use AI. So as I go through them, what I would like you to do is to observe which ones affect you more, because the first step with biases is awareness. So recognizing which ones you're subjected to. So first we have, I'll go quick and we'll send you the slides later, so no worries. Automation bias. Automation bias is when we overtrust the output from a system. So given that it's AI, it must be more trustworthy because AI has access to knowledge, right? So before we would ask ourselves, is this correct? Now, when using AI, we tend to say, oh, this is probably correct. I don't have time to check. So typical behaviors to realize that you are thinking of, like you are subjected to this bias is when you don't check the sources, the assumptions, when you ignore some inconsistencies that there may be in the answers that you receive, or when you copy and paste what AI has said as if it was a fact instead of verifying it. So if any of you is subject to this is automation bias, if you recognize some of those behaviors. Then we have premature closure. What is it? This is when we stop reasoning too early. So as soon as there is an answer that is plausible, that could potentially make sense, we stop using our brain. So before AI, we would think, okay, we would do this. I stop searching because I either didn't have time or I didn't have enough energy left, right? Now, with AI, when is it that we stop searching? We stop searching as when we have an output. So I have an answer, so I don't need to search more. But at times that's not the answer that we actually need because it's too soon, premature closure. So how do we recognize this? When you accept the first AI response instead of questioning it, when you don't ask follow-up questions to AI, so you just take what it says, when you don't try and use your lateral thinking to test other views, or this is an emotional thing. So it's when as soon as you get a good enough answer, let's say, and you haven't really challenged it, but you start feeling, okay, I'm relieved. I have an answer. I can move on. Instead of, is this answer okay? So that curiosity. So if you have any of these behaviors, premature closure. Then we have heuristic substitution. Heuristic substitution is when we change the type of question to easier ones. What do I mean? Before AI, we would say, is this reasoning valid, accurate, complete? Does this fully make sense? With AI, a lot of people have changed that question into something simpler, which is not, does it make sense? Is it valid? But it is, does this look structured, well-written, and intelligent? And so we start evaluating the answer, not based on the substance, but based on the form. So you recognize this, for example, when the confident tone persuades you that it must be okay, or when you start trusting clarity over accuracy, when you may be skimming through a lot of output and just say, okay, it must be okay, when you feel convinced about something just because it sounds convincing. So this is something to pay a lot of attention to because it's hard to spot. And then we have confirmation bias. So that's the tendency to seek information that will support your point of view. And before AI, what we would do is we would ask, maybe not everyone, there may be some people in your life that never want to be wrong, but in general, we could ask ourselves, okay, could I be wrong potentially? Is there evidence that contradicts this? Now, at times we see people prompting AI by saying, okay, tell me why this is true, or refine my argument. Refine my argument is very dangerous because AI is trained to validate you. AI is trained to say, wow, that's amazing. And unless you really challenge it and say, break down my argument, it won't do it automatically. So a typical behavior here is prompting for validation, feeling reassured when the AI tells you, oh, wow, that's amazing, well done, you have an amazing idea, or overlooking weaknesses, or using AI to justify conclusions that you got before. You see, also AI says that. Now, these are 4 main biases that affect us when using AI. As I said, there's 150 biases, but selected the 4 that are more impactful on an overall level for AI. And I would like you to think, okay, which one is it that I am most subjected to? Okay. And how do we do? What can we do about these biases? As we said, that there's 3 factors that affect them. So one thing that you can start immediately doing is pause. Don't end up being part of the speed loop. So when you realize you are rushing, that's something you can do from today. Just pause, take a moment, and reset yourself so that you don't rush, because otherwise these biases will be much more active. Second thing, emotional state. So if you are too overwhelmed, too stressed, don't take that answer of the AI. Wait, calm down before, because otherwise your critical thinking will be low. And then cognitive skills. So you need to start developing those skills at the basis, because cognitive skills are the ones that also affect the speed and emotional state. So cognitive skills is really where we start, because in the moment in which you develop many skills, I'm going to show them now, but especially things like focus, lateral thinking, critical thinking on a deeper level, then all the biases are already less active, because your brain is more switched on. And this world with AI needs us to be more switched on even than we were before. Now, what are the skills that we can develop? There are 4 superpowers that we group these skills on, and 12 cognitive skills. Over the next few sessions, we're going to go a little bit more deep on some of the other skills and how they connect, because they are all interconnected between each other. In the moment in which we master the ones that are more needed for us, that's when everything as a domino effect falls into place. So before we go and see the output that Claude Design created for us, very curious, what I want to say is, for these, what I want to give you between now and the next session, you have the chance to take a free quiz that we created in order to help you start understanding which of these superpowers you tend to lean more into and which one may need more work. Okay, so here you can find a QR code, you can scan it, and it's a free superpower quiz. It takes you 3-4 minutes to take it. It's an initial step into, peeking into the world of brain performance, just to begin with, but it already gives you some interesting pointers on where you should focus your attention if you don't want to be left out in this age of AI. Now, Hamid, are we ready for the output before we go and see what we're going to do the next session and ask questions? Ready.
We are ready for the output. Let
us
share the output.
My sharing, and over to you.
Drum rolls, please. Drum rolls, Katarina. Okay, cool. Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Okay, cool. Let's do it. So, just with, you guys can see my screen, right? Wonderful. So just with that prompt that was generated, I haven't added anything else. I literally just pasted the prompt in on the side. Claude Design has generated a pitch deck that talks about what it is that you do, Katerina, life insurance.
Yeah.
Now this is it. It says, if some life insurance, if something happens to you today, would the people you depend on be taken care of? And here is expecting like a warm family portrait, your advisor name. So that's where we're going to put your name, Katerina. And then here are the other pages. So keep in mind, we didn't give it any directions in terms of like colors to use, branding, anything like that. So it's doing what it thinks is best based on the small amounts of information that we gave it. Now, imagine if we actually continued this conversation and actually changed it to the colors that you wanted. And the great thing about using AI like this, Claude Design, is that you can actually go through each of these slides and edit it. So you can click edit up here, or click draw and draw around this, something like this, and be like, actually, I want an image here, and the image that I want is a particular thing, and you just add that to the notes. So we can do stuff like that. But also because in the beginning of this conversation, the beginning of this presentation, I said it's not about the tools, it's about the thinking system. So I don't want us to get caught up in thinking, yeah, Claude is amazing, but it's not about Claude. We could have done the exact same thing using another AI. So I did the exact same thing using Google. So this is anyone that has Google Business. If you have a Gmail account, you likely have Google Business, a Gmail account. When I say Gmail, I mean your own Gmail, personal Gmail account. You likely have Google Business. And if you have Google Business, then you have access to this for free. So I pasted the same prompt in Google, and Google designed something else around the same thing. If you went here tomorrow, what would their story be? And this is a lot more interactive. It's a lot more fancy. It looks more
Yeah,
like
it
a
has
landing
the
page.
photos.
And Google actually used photos and so on. But so it's slightly different from what Claude designed. But once again, you can play with this. You can select the edit tool. You can choose things in this that you want to edit. You can be like, actually, I don't like this particular image. You can choose this image and say, I don't like it. Change this image to something else, and you can play around with
And
it like that.
basically, we just put very minimal information and it created very to the point concept.
Yes, that's what we did. But the reason why I was able to do that is because I used the brain that I had developed already to turn the minimal information you gave me into a very long prompt. So if you look at the prompt on this side, it wasn't minimal. It was actually pretty long and it was pretty detailed. So it understood what to tell the AI in order to generate this amazing output. So
But the
this
prompt was ready because of the questions, correct?
Yes, yes. So the prompt was derived from the questions that you gave us. The prompt was then fed into both Claude and Google, and this is the output that is given through that. And the
Yeah, and
amazing thing is
sorry,
you
may
can
I
keep,
add one thing about the prompt? So the prompt was also created like this, if I understood right, Hamid, thanks to the information that you have put in your second brain. So it knows the
yes,
framework, right?
yes. It knows the framework, it knows the type of things to ask. It knows because I understand how to prompt AI, right? I put that in my second brain. So now when somebody gives me the most minimal information, I can generate an incredible prompt like this and create an output like this just from that information because it's thinking like I would think with regards to adding a prompt. And something else I wanted to show was that Julia mentioned that when we get an output from AI, we shouldn't just trust it. We should always try to improve it. So I did that while she was talking. So the original output that Google gave me was actually quite different. It was this one, so I can show you that. If I restore it, I wonder if I'll be able to go back forwards. But I can. You've seen this, so we can go back a little bit. I can show you that version, and then you can compare the difference. So this was the previous version that it created. Now this version is it's also good, but it's not as interactive. It's not as web friendly as the second one. Because what I did was I then said this is a little bit too naked. Let's make it more interesting. So then we made it more interesting, and then that's when you were able to see that second one. So you can see here I said it's a bit naked. Can we improve it a bit more? All I did was give it that simple command, and it changed it and made it even more incredible. So I just wanted to show you guys the power of AI and the power of questioning it and the power of context, the power of context. Having your AI brain is your own way of creating context so that the responses that the AI gives you is way more accurate, way more important. And this is an incredible aspect that we can teach everybody. And it is platform agnostic. It doesn't rely on any platform. And it's a brain that you own that's on your computer and you can put it anywhere else that you need to put it. So just wanted to share that. I can stop sharing now.
Amazing. Thank you, Hamid. It's super impressive. I mean, I've seen you doing this thing many times, but it's always impressive because there's always something new. And what I would like to do is just to show everyone what we're going to do next time in the next session, and then we can open the floor to questions. Okay. So next time, what are we going to do? We're going to go deeper on the C framework that Hamid mentioned. So Hamid mentioned that he's using a series of frameworks that he's created and that are incredibly effective. And so we're going to go deeper into that. And we're going to go deeper also on the critical thinking. So today we saw what the blockers are and how we can start raising our awareness in order to not be completely subjected to those biases, recognizing which biases affect us more, and so on. Next time, we're going to learn a little bit more about how to activate our critical thinking and the other skills that are connected to that. So if you haven't scanned the QR code for the superpower, the free superpower quiz, I would recommend you to do it now. And then we can open the floor to questions. Here you can find also our contacts to send emails later.